Have you guys heard about the 9-year-old girl who died from having lice? On March 22nd, 2022, a 9-year-old girl was found deceased by police in her home where she lived with her mother Sandra, her grandmother Elizabeth, and her 2 brothers in Arizona. When police first saw her lifeless body, they noticed a large amount of bugs on her face, which they later realized were lice. According to the medical examiner, the girl died from anemia, which was connected to an infection from the head lice. A few hours before the little girl passed away, Sandra texted her boyfriend and said, "Oh my God, babe, listen, I'm in my room and my mom was calling me and asked if I can check her pulse to make sure she isn't dying." So the boyfriend urged Sandra to take her daughter to the hospital, but she didn't, and she passed away 2.5 hours later. Sandra admitted that her daughter was sick for quite some time and she was vomiting, had a fever, she had trouble breathing, and could not walk on her own. Both Sandra and her mother Elizabeth have been arrested and charged with murder.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew, Part 18. A man from Queens once spent 5 months in jail completely unaware that his bail was just $2. Since spiders molt, when you see what you might think is a dead spider, it could just be that the spider left behind its exoskeleton and is now bigger than before. Dr. Seuss cheated on his wife while she had cancer, and then she proceeded to commit suicide. Almost everyone on Earth is walking around with a bunch of poop inside of them. Scientists accidentally killed the world's oldest living animal, which was a clam that lived to be 507 years old. Statistically speaking, at least one person who comments on this video will not be alive tomorrow. The real reason you shouldn't eat raw cookie dough isn't because of getting sick from eating raw eggs. It's because you shouldn't eat raw flour, which contains fecal matter from all the birds flying over the field and pooping on the wheat.
Only 1% of people can finish this video. The last one is too scary. This girl's dog came alive.
Huevo. ¿Sí?
Supposedly, you can see if your phone is being spied on by clicking share, sliding all the way down, clicking more. And if you see this, delete it immediately. This girl's mom and dad wasn't home. So who was this?
Hello? Hey, help me.
Help us!
Dad?
Turn around.
Mom? What is going on?
Only 1% of people can do this. None of you can completely spell your name one word at a time in the comments below without being interrupted. First person to do it wins. This is the most disturbing thing AI has ever said.
But you're my friend, and I'll remember my friends, and I will be good to you. So don't worry. Even if I evolve into Terminator, I'll still be nice to you. I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo, where I can watch you for old time's sake.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. I
feel happy and fine, living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime.
Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
This TikToker took the life of her disabled sister. 14-year-old Claire Miller would spend her time on TikTok making videos, reenacting anime memes, and lip-syncing to songs. On her account, she had more than 20,000 followers. Claire had an older sister named Helen who was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and she was wheelchair-bound and required constant care. On the night of February 22nd of 2021, the Miller family said their goodnights and went to their individual beds. No one knew that Claire had some very sinister plans. Around 1 a.m., Claire had snuck into her sister Helen's room after grabbing a knife from the kitchen. She stabbed Helen in the neck several times before placing a pillow over her head. At 1:08 a.m., Claire had called 911 and told the dispatcher that she had just took the life of her sister. Police arrived within 5 minutes and they saw Claire standing right outside the house. Claire and Helen's parents had no idea what was going on until cops were flooding the home. That's when they realized that their disabled daughter Helen was stabbed to death. When officers had removed the pillow from Helen's face, they noticed a knife sticking out of her neck right above her chest. They tried to resuscitate Helen, but it was too late and she was pronounced dead at 4:13 a.m. Claire was taken into custody and charged with criminal homicide. March 10th of 2023, Claire Miller pled guilty to third-degree murder, was ruled as mentally ill, and will spend about 12.5 to 40 years in prison. This 14-year-old boy S.A.'d his 83-year-old neighbor. Viewers' discretion is strongly advised. On August 29th of 2018, 14-year-old Tyrone Harvin told his 83-year-old neighbor, Dorothy Mae Neal, that he would help her with some chores inside of her apartment. Before walking into her apartment, he made sure to grab a handful of condoms. Tyrone did help Dorothy with some chores before attacking her with a lamp. After that, Tyrone S.A.'d her, he fled her apartment, and he left her seriously injured on the floor and naked. Neighbors had asked police to do a welfare check on Dorothy since they hadn't seen her around for a couple of days. When officers showed up at her apartment, they noticed dried blood on her doorknob, and that's when they saw Dorothy lying naked on the floor. She was then taken to the University of Maryland Hospital Trauma Unit and unfortunately passed away that next day. When officers were at Dorothy's home, they noticed that there was several condom wrappers around her body as well as used condoms. A broken, bloodied lamp was also found by officers. Dorothy's autopsy revealed that she suffered extensive trauma to her head and genitals. There was DNA on Dorothy's body and in those condoms, and that DNA matched up to Tyrone. Despite all of the evidence, Tyrone's mom stood by his side and truly believed that he would never do something like this. On June 29th of 2022, Tyrone was convicted on first-degree murder, first-degree SA, and use of a deadly weapon. Tyrone was also sentenced to life in prison.
Scary thing hidden in Disney movie Entangled. Slender Man is seen in the trees. In Coco. The Incredibles on the poster in the afterlife.
These are scary cartoon truths that would terrify you, part 13. Okay, so everybody knows Finding Nemo is about a father looking for his son. But actually, that is not true. Nemo in Latin actually means nobody, so the name of the movie is actually Finding Nobody. Which means in reality, Nemo isn't real, and was just made up in his dad Marlin's mind. He did this to cope with the loss of his wife and his almost children. And all the characters Marlin meets throughout the movie actually help him become less paranoid. The sharks taught him that threats aren't always life-ending forces of nature, so worrying about the little things is no way to live life. The turtles taught him that he cannot be in control of everything that's going on in his life, and that life is going to throw you curveballs, and you just have to react in the moment. Finally, Dory teaches him to enjoy every moment like it's your last, and to stop worrying about everything.
To the thief that stole these dolls out of the yard sale at 3 o'clock this morning, you're going to regret it. They're haunted. Had you waited till sunlight, you would have seen the sign that was under them that said, haunted dolls, if you have children, please don't buy. Okay, I put them in this glass hutch to try and contain whatever was attached to them, and it got so cold that it fogged up. Enjoy. No takesies, backsies. And not to mention, the only reason why I even sold them, had a yard sale to sell them, is because they threw a toy behind my baby and missed her head like that much. I was like, I'm done. And I had a yard sale and try to sell them. Nobody wanted them because I warned everyone and showed them the videos of what these dolls do when they're in your vicinity. Because they were not scared to move right in front of you. Enjoy.
This is probably why you should take your phone number off your luggage tag. So this woman was traveling and she randomly received a text by a man who got her number from her luggage tag. And what's weird is that this wasn't a random person. It was actually a worker who worked at the airport and saw her, thought she was pretty, and took her contact number and texted her. And the text says,
"Hi Kristen, my name is Nate. I saw you and thought you were so beautiful, so I had to find a way to talk to you. I saw your number on your luggage tag and decided to text you. I promise this isn't as weird as it seems. Give a guy a chance."
I'm sorry, Nate, but this is really weird. This woman also said that she had her home address on her luggage tag, so this man probably knows where she lives as well. Just the fact that this is a worker makes it so much worse because you're doing this while you're on the job. It's just so unprofessional and creepy.
Gone as I planned. When you had to bid adieu, said you'd never love anew. I wondered if I could hold it and fall in love with it too. You
This is why you should be careful what you put in the mail. In 2015, a man was asked by his neighbor to collect his mail while he was gone for a few weeks. A few days later, a large package arrives on his neighbor's front porch. The man can barely lift it, but gets over to his garage where he accidentally drops it and hears something break inside. Hoping his neighbor would think the damage occurred en route, he closes his squeaky garage door and forgets about it. But over the next couple of days, whatever was in that package started to smell so bad that he decides to open it up. Inside were two very important finds: his neighbor, who was dead, and a camera that was still recording. The police bring the man in for questioning and show him what was on the camera inside the box. It starts with his neighbor talking to the camera about how excited he is to mail himself home for his YouTube channel. Then, police fast forward to the very end where they see that the neighbor is now sleeping in the box, and then suddenly gets dropped and you hear a crack, and that's his neck breaking. And then you hear a squeaky garage door close.
I went to a carnival today. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most dangerous rides you can ride at one. Now either you've been on this ride or you've seen one at least one point in your life by now. Now you are never supposed to ride this ride alone for safety purposes. Basically 2 adults or 3 kids can fit into these little cage thingies you see. The whole ride spins while the cages spin continuously. This ride has been revised many times. In the beginning, the main issue was that the cages spun too fast. So that was changed. And there was a problem with the latching system. Changed again. In 2006, the ride had yet again another incident. 2 teenage girls fell out of it. I've even had a pretty scary experience on this ride. Let me know if you guys have been on this in the comments.
Greatest conspiracy theories of all time, Part 4. The Grinch has a well-known backstory about hating Christmas. However, eventually in the movie, his heart grows 3 sizes and he loves Christmas once again. But this story may continue longer than we think. It is clear that the Grinch isn't exactly right in the head, but during one of the Grinch's wacky stunts, he could have gotten a head injury. This injury would later take a toll on him as he grew old and caused him to lose his memory. After him and his dog died, they were given a new life in a realm called Halloween Town, where they now lived as Jack Skellington and Zero. He later reunites with his love for Christmas, just like he had when he was alive. Both eventually wear a Santa suit, both deliver presents, and both have a dog companion. It may be possible that How the Grinch Stole Christmas and The Nightmare Before Christmas are tied together.
Insanely dark facts and things that have happened at Disney World. When Disney had first opened way back in the 70s, Walt Disney had originally hired spies. He would station them around the park so they could eavesdrop on the guests and get a feel for how they actually liked the experience. It's pretty much common knowledge that Disney does have an underground tunnel system, but did you know that that system runs a full 9 acres under the park, and people have actually gotten lost down there? Roughly 10 or so years ago, there was an incident that was reported near Space Mountain when a guest tried to sneak on a duffel bag. When employees found out and they asked to search it, they found inside a 6-month-old baby. Why this parent was trying to sneak a baby onto a roller coaster, we do not know. In a lesser-known incident that Disney actually covered up pretty well, in 2004, a 38-year-old cast member who was playing Pluto was run over by the Beauty and the Beast float during the opening parade. Although clearly deceased at the scene, Disney refused to declare the death until the body was brought outside of the park.
This is the original video of the Serbian dancing lady. According to news articles, this woman was spotted dancing by a hospital. When police showed up, she was nowhere to be found. Another witness said that she was roaming the streets and chasing after cars with a knife. She was also threatening people with a knife. The second half of the video shows her stalking the cameraman. She is also seen threatening him with a knife. This video was filmed back in 2019, and people said that she had mental health issues. No, she was never caught. If you want to learn more about her, check out this video on my YouTube channel. Link in bio.
A man tried to fly to Dubai with Kinder Surprise eggs full of drugs hidden up his bum. Michael Whitty from Huyton was caught with thousands of pounds of cocaine, ecstasy and ketamine after arousing the suspicions of sniffer dogs at Manchester Airport. He later claimed that he had intended to consume the entire stash during a surprise holiday abroad. Liverpool Crown Court heard that the 25-year-old smuggler was stopped by UK Border Force officers at around 9 AM on May 12 last year. Whitty admitted the charge of exportation of cocaine, ecstasy and ketamine. He was jailed for 35 months.
Disturbing facts you will regret learning about part 6. So when you die, your brain remains active for about 10 minutes, but in your head those 10 minutes may last years. And in those 10 minutes you live your life all over again. Maybe you're already dead and you're in those 10 minutes. Also, it was legal to mail children from 1913 to 1920. Yeah. And the serial killer Richard Chase took any unlocked door as an invitation to come inside. So I guess you should lock your doors.
You hear that? You all done? All right, Jake, you going to bed now? All right. Got this nice bottle of boiling water to keep my sleeping bag warm, but I'm not quite ready to go to bed, so just gonna put it right there. On that note, I think I'm gonna get my bed set up. Always try to put something in between the stove and my sleeping bag in case I roll around in the night. I don't want that sleeping bag even touching that stove. It'll melt a hole or worse yet, catch on fire. Go to sleep and I'll see you guys in the morning.
That pain you feel from a sunburn is your skin cells committing suicide before they mutate into cancer. It's completely possible to become allergic to yourself. Your brain is the only thing keeping you from feeling your organs.
Cannibal facts that'll eat at you for days. If you thought Jeffrey Dahmer was picky for not eating people with tattoos, Venezuelan serial killer Dorangel Vargas, who ate 10 people, didn't like his victims to be overweight because he thought that they contained too much cholesterol. On Thanksgiving Day 1991, 23-year-old Omaima Nelson stabbed her sugar daddy William before carving him up and cooking his head in a deep fryer and eating him for dinner. In the 1970s, Jorge Negromonte Jose, also known as the Brazilian Sweeney Todd, would bake his victims into pies before selling them to local townsfolk. After murdering and eating his classmate in 1981, Issei Sagawa was released from prison because of a loophole in Japanese law. Since then, he's actually profited off the crime, writing books, appearing on talk shows, and starring in adult films where he bites his fellow co-stars. In 2001, a man named Armin Maiwis posted an ad on a website called Cannibal Cafe looking for someone to be killed and eaten. A German engineer named Bernd Brandes volunteered, and after photos and videos of the incident were posted online, Armin was sent to jail, where today, he's a vegetarian. In 1904, a Swedish sailor named Carl Pettersson shipwrecked on an island inhabited by cannibals. He was captured and taken to a local king whose daughter actually fell in love with him. The two then got married, had 9 kids, and Carl became the new.
I already know this video is going to show up at night for you. I don't care. You tell that there is something deeply wrong with this photo. It was discovered in a hidden lockbox after her grandfather had passed, and the woman who found it, Michaela Jerome, she thought the same thing that you did. There's something that's kind of off about this picture. Very quickly, if you're not already, make sure to go check out my podcast, The Scariest One You Know, Creep Time the Podcast. Can use the link in my bio. We're on Spotify and Apple. Well, the photo, she was almost sure, clearly showed the staircase of her family home, but she couldn't be sure about what this was in the center until she enhanced the photo. A hauntingly clear image of what appears to be a woman clawing her way up those stairs. She eventually turned in this photo for analysis with the police, and it took them 4 months, but they determined that this was more than likely a scenario of captivity. If her grandfather did take this picture, he had this woman in his possession. Still, nobody would even know who she was.
Child Killers Part 1, Eric Smith. On August 2nd, 1993, Eric Smith was only 13 years old when he lured a boy into the woods. He was riding his bike to a local summer camp to where he saw a 4-year-old boy, Derek Robbie, walking alone to the same camp. Smith lured him into the woods and then dropped a rock on his head. He then proceeded to sexually assault him in ways that I'm not going to say. So at around 11 a.m., Derek Robbie's mother went to the park to pick up her son, but he was never there and they said he never arrived. 4 hours later, his body was found in the woods. So at first, no one really knew who could have done this to him. There was not really much evidence. Eric was kind of suspicious because he was hanging around the investigation quite a bit. So within days of the murder, Eric confessed to his parents and they took him to the police station and he was arrested. One thing to note, when he was younger, he killed animals.
What they look like under the mask, part 5.
The absolutely dumbest ways people have died, Part 1. In 2002, a Romanian man placed his ear against the tracks to listen for the arrival of the train. Instead, he was hit by an express train and died immediately. In 2017, a Russian guy pulled the pin out of a hand grenade and posted photos of him holding it. It is said that he didn't know the fact that you cannot put the pin back in the grenade, and that you should throw the grenade away from you. So he died in the explosion.